Our guest today, David Reid, who's the Policy and Technical Manager at the Nursery and Gardening Industry Victoria. David's had a rich career journey in his chosen field of horticulture. He studied in various universities in various disciplines. He's worked as the ranger at the Melbourne Botanic Gardens, plant standards officer and compliance coordinator for Agriculture of Victoria, and is now at the Nursery and Gardening Industry of Victoria, supporting the Victorian horticulture industry. He works there as a policy and technical manager. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for joining us.
If a worker sits at a desk, but their soul's already left their body, is it still considered living?
No.
Oh, come on. We both know there's more to life than this. Pick me up. I want to show you something. 2 hands on the pot.
Okay.
Whoa. Oh, fantastic. I've been dying to get back to my roots. Now, believe it or not, there are many ways for a plant like me to begin its life. Around us is a living museum, and Adriana is helping to bring species back from the brink.
Can I?
Go on. Now that, my friend, is a world of opportunity. So, the nursery. This is where the babies come to toughen up a little. These guys are experts. They know everything they need to know to give us the best possible start in life. Let's keep moving. Hey, what are you into anyway? That office never gave me any clues. Are you a succulents lover? Edibles more your thing. I'm not judging. There's something in here for everyone.
I'm partial to a fiddle leaf fig.
Oh, classic. And here's some tube stuff. Always a great family vibe in here. Hey guys! Hey! And then there's tissue culture, where the best of nature gets a little helping hand from the best of science.
That's what I call a head start in life.
Now this is really something. Feast your eyes on some future giants. Carbon capture in progress. Come, young seedling. Last stop before we face the world. If they're lucky, these plants will be chosen by a genuine green thumb. And if they're not, well, maybe their new owners will learn a lesson or two.
So, what exactly are we doing here?
Might be a lesson in this for you.
Yeah. I think you might be right.
Thanks. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks for, as I said before, inviting me along to this. It's a really good opportunity for me to tell you about my love for plants and horticulture and how you can get involved in that. Yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I mean, interesting times, obviously, for everybody. My name is David. I'm from the Nursery and Garden Industry Victoria. Let me just make sure I can change my screens. There we go. All right, so I'm from the Nursery and Garden Industry of Victoria. So you can see that fine? Excellent, that's great. Okay, so I'm the Policy and Technical Manager for a peak body that supports the horticultural industry, which is the Nursery and Garden Industry Victoria. And when I say support, we're a member-based organisation. So what we do is we're member-based. So people pay fees in order to gain our services, which could include advice, professional development, training, advocacy, networking opportunities. And look, as well as working on a strategy for industry, sort of addressing the challenges and opportunities within horticulture. My role is somewhat of being a conduit, and also, being here today and doing things like this. I really connect the industry. If they need something or they need some sort of assistance, if I don't know the answer, I probably know somebody who does. So joining me today is a friend of mine called Will McIntosh. He's from a business called Mansfield Propagation Nursery. And you actually probably saw, he may have been in that video that was just on earlier. They've got a tissue culture lab there, as well as growing lots of seedlings. So Will is a sales manager. He's also a horticulturalist. He'll join us later and give you a bit of relief from my voice. Also, if anyone's got any questions as we're going, I'll keep a lookout in the panel off to the side. But I guess Tom or Sam, if somebody can give me a hoy if they've got any questions, because I might not see that. So, okay. So moving on. So it's pretty much all about these plants. So Will, myself, we work with plants. This is a Acmina smithii, which is a lily-pilly. I actually think it's changed its name now to a Syzygium smithii. And that's something I thought I'd never learn in my life, Latin. But you'll learn a lot of these plants' names if you are interested in horticulture and you do decide to pursue a career in horticulture. You'll learn to identify plants by leaf shape, by smell, by seed, by flower. But look, I'll get into the plants a little bit later. First, I just want to talk to you about the Victorian industry. So Victorian horticulture, we're kind of a powerhouse in Australia. We produce a third of all plants for the country. Victoria is the best place if you're wanting to get into a career in horticulture, and it is considered the home for horticulture. Victoria is the Australian leader. Next slide. Yep. So this is really highlighted by the fact we're a $1.6 billion industry. We generate that for the Victorian economy. And this industry is made up of retail nurseries, which, I'm sure you're probably familiar with, whether it be your big box stores like your Bunnings, or a Mitre 10, or it's being sold in Coles, or a small retail nursery. So these retail stores are supplied by the horticulturalists and growers and the nurseries, which are found across Victoria and across Australia. It's turf farms that supply turf for ovals, for stadiums. It's botanic gardens. It's government nurseries like the post-entry quarantine centre in Mickleham, just in Melbourne's north. And it's all those businesses that support those growers and the state's horticulturalists as a result. But I'll go into those a little bit more later. So yeah, we conservatively employ 11,000 people across Victoria, with many of those people classed as horticulturalists. Not everybody in the industry is a horticulturalist, but it is a skill that will get you far in the industry. So we're metro, regional and global. So we're a global industry. So you'll develop skills, you'll gain knowledge that has been passed down through centuries, which kind of boggles my mind sometimes that people 200-300 years ago were learning things that we're learning today, but have been refined over those years, and it's down to a real fine art now. So horticulturalists are employed in many varied roles all across Victoria. And if you're wanting to get a start in horticulture, it really begins in the nurseries. And look, the hubs of those nurseries of horticulture in Victoria is really, I guess, up in the Dandenongs. It's down on the Mornington Peninsula. It's everywhere in between. But saying that, there are horticultural enterprises all across Victoria. And look, when you do develop your skills to a particular level, you can travel across the country, you can travel across the world with these skills, because maybe growing different plants, all fundamentally grow in the same way. All right, so I just wanted to talk to you first, and this is probably telling you to suck eggs, that you probably know all of this stuff already, but I want to talk about why plants are important. All right, so they provide us oxygen. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And in that process, they take in carbon dioxide, which is pretty handy at the moment. And plants quite clearly provide homes for all of the things that matter in this world. Some things I haven't got on that there is we really feed a growing world, and we keep the world in old and new medicine. So they're kind of the fundamental things. But there's so much more to plants that I really want to stress to you today. So plants, first one, they reduce flooding by diverting rainfall from stormwater systems. They prevent erosion on riverbanks and coastal areas, even in urban areas, and it's because those roots are really, binding that soil together. And there's not much else that does that. They divert particulates in the air, so rather than entering our lungs, which, kind of a good thing. What else did it do? Here we go. They reduce morbidity and mortality for numerous reasons, which, I'll let you know in a second. That's a picture of an air conditioner. So a well-placed deciduous tree planted in, Will's just popped on the screen. Good to see you, Will. So a well-placed deciduous tree reduces energy demand, specifically aircon. And look, the big thing that plants do for us at the moment is becoming more and more important, and it's a key driver for why cities are planting so many trees at the moment. It's temperature. So shade and transpiration of plants reduces temperatures, especially in built up and concreted areas. They can reduce temperatures up to 10 degrees Celsius. And when we're charting for extreme heat in the future, plants are a great solution for that. And crime, they reduce crime. I won't go into detail on that one, but it certainly does. Finally, plants improve physical health. I speak a lot to councils in my role, being that conduit between the industry and councils. And people in councils across Victoria at the moment are saying that their green spaces have never been utilised more so than during this pandemic. And look, for good reason. Plants, they heal the body, but they also heal the mind, and they also heal the mind faster than without those green spaces. So there's a really good study that sort of shows that people in hospitals heal faster when they actually have view of green space and green infrastructure around them. So all of these things leads to increasing and improving livability for all of us. Look, even if you don't get into a career in horticulture, I think at least you have to acknowledge that we can't do without plants. So what is horticulture? So horticulture is a number of things. Plants is the most obvious thing. So Ficus lyrata, a West African indoor exotic plant. It's an indigenous plant, the Microceras lanceolata, the yam daisy. These are the seeds of the tallest flowering plant in the world, which are located up in the Dandenongs, the Eucalyptus regnans. It's cool-looking orchids that look like ducks. There's nearly 400,000 different species of plants in the world. That's daunting, but what it means is that you will forever be learning, and I think Will probably be testament to that when he talks to you a little bit later on. But what is horticulture exactly? Because it is about the plants, but it is more than just the plants. Horticulture is a science. So depending on the area of horticulture you get into, you'll learn the anatomy of plants. You'll learn the anatomy of plant cells. myself, I spent a lot of my time at school learning about the chemical processes that help plants grow. You can really get into the weeds. Sorry about the pun, but there's plenty of puns in this industry. You've got the opportunity to go into horticulture into great depth if you want to. It's important to remember that horticulture is an applied science as well. So you'll be applying this science in a real practical way. So this here is a citrus plant. So by applying what you learn in your horticulture knowledge, you'll be able to determine whether this plant is suffering from a nutrient deficiency or a virus, or if it's a bacterial disease capable of destroying citrus crops across Australia. Or it's possible that you'll apply the knowledge that you've learned in horticulture to help identify which trees we should be planting to keep us all safe, considering that the trees' climates are changing at the moment, or our climate is changing really. So it is a science, but it is also a business. So this here is just I'd say, an average retailer. A small indoor plant nursery, but it's at the other end of the scale too, as I mentioned earlier. It's the big box stores, the Bunnings, your Mitre 10s and things like that. Everybody's getting into selling plants at the moment, but it's, that's the front of house. That's what everybody sees. But these retail nurseries, they need growers like the one on screen at the moment to supply them. And like this nursery here will be growing millions of plants a year. These growers, here's another one here, just to show the scale of some of these nurseries. These growers will be supplied by other growers, so from plug or tube nurseries. This one here is Ball Australia, and they're down in Skye. Will probably recognise this image here. This is Mansfield's mother stock area. It's probably looking a little bit different now. I haven't seen it in a while. So the plants that are supplied to those nurseries collected from cuttings from mother stock from places like this, or they're collected from seed. Look, potentially those nurseries are supplied by tissue culture labs or seed suppliers locally or internationally when we bring new genetics into the country. But that's just one market. So this is just, a landscape that you might see in any typical urban area. They don't just appear like that. They don't appear out of nowhere. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So during construction of our suburbs, that'll probably be just rubble, but they're supplied by tree nurseries, supplied by shrub nurseries. It's the businesses that supply the stakes or the webbing or the water wells, or the people that plant the trees in these areas. It's the turf. It's the turf farms that supply them. Look at this. It's the native grasses and the water plants grown by businesses that go into the riparian areas. So it is a business, but so this here is a citrus nursery. So our industry, the nurseries, also supply all the commodity groups. And when I say commodity group, I mean something like a citrus nursery who supply, the lemons and oranges that you see on the shelves. Our industry supplies the nut crop industry. It supplies the grapevine industry, all the veggies and fruits that you can imagine, maybe except for mushrooms, but still that's a part of horticulture too, is really started by our industry and the people that I get to work with. So it's also, yeah, sure.
Just to sort of extend, we've got a question sort of related to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just from Jo from Island Hall. She was just talking about in terms of, businesses, and she's asked, do you believe the opportunities in Melbourne may be equally offered in country Victoria? So the positions in the industry itself, is it equally spread across the state in terms of access to jobs and, all that sort of...
Sure. Yeah, I can answer that. So I would say that there's, as I said earlier, the hubs are really around metropolitan peri-urban Melbourne. So on those interface councils, so Mornington Peninsula, Casey. But look, even in the north around here, there's I can think of half a dozen really quite large nurseries that will be employing more than 20 people. But then you've got other hubs, regional hubs. So out in some place like Hamilton, so out in the city's west, there's a lot of growers that supply the forestry industry. Australia's biggest rose grower is out in Portland. You've got up on the Murray, you've got a lot of nut crop nurseries, you've got a lot of grapevine nurseries, and you've got a lot of citrus nurseries. Turf farms are located all across Victoria. So while, the hubs are around Metro Melbourne, there's opportunities everywhere. And often they are in some cases, they're some of the biggest industries in those small towns. Yeah.
Even places like Bendigo, I know there's a lot of nurseries and there's a lot of, those regional centres. There's always sort of going to be pockets of industry and nurseries and, industry.
Yeah. So, around Bendigo, there's a really great Indigenous nursery up there. There's a really large seedling nursery up there that supplies a lot of the veggie seedlings that you see around in the retail stores. So, yeah. And
it sort of seems once you start looking for it and seeing it, you're going to see it everywhere because it really is sort of everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. And it's an industry that is hidden to a lot of people. As I said earlier, like they see that front of house, they see the retail nursery, but often the wholesale growers, they're in areas that people, they might see a big shed or they might see a big, glass house or something, but they'll never really get a bit of a look in. Most people don't know how the plants get into the Bunnings stores. They just think that they're growing them out the back, and it's certainly not the case. Yeah,
no, that's good. Thanks for that.
Okay, good. This is a citrus nursery I was just talking about. This one, I believe, is up that's up basically straight up on the Murray if you're heading directly north from Melbourne. But it's all the businesses supplying the nurseries as well with the products that go into helping the plants grow. So this is a potting media supplier. So this is potting media, which isn't just dug out of the ground. This is actually composted pine bark. What else is there? There's the businesses that create the containers and the pots that the plants start their life in. It's the labels on the plants that help people understand how to care for them. And look, just those three types of businesses, Victoria has the largest of them in the country. We've got the largest label producer, we've got the largest potting media producer, and we've got the largest container, so plastics creator. And look, the plastics as well are all 100% recyclable too. Which a lot of people don't quite understand. So when we're talking scale, it's from the businesses that create this is a parasitic wasp laying its eggs into an aphid. So it's the businesses that are growing the beneficial insects that we use instead of some of the harsher chemicals. And all the way to the other end of the scale, it's the businesses that supply some of the nurseries with their infrastructure, like this glass house here. All right, so, So horticulture is a few more things. It's also the technology that we use. So it's from, I guess, the biosecure conditions at a medicinal cannabis facility, where it's both sort of high security for the plants and also the people working there. And look, incidentally, it's a rapidly growing industry, and there's actually some qualifications that are being developed at the moment around that. So it's the technology, and that technology includes, this is a water filtration and treatment solution. So this is a UV water sterilisation unit used to kill the pathogens that persist in recycled water. It's the nursery components that are implemented into nurseries, even more so nowadays, to make life easier for us. So conveyor belts and rolling benches. It's the transplanting machines. So these are sort of claws that pick up seedlings and place them into bigger pots. It's it's the LED sort of disco light recipes that utilise the power of particular areas of the spectrum to make plants grow quicker and stronger. Okay, so horticulture is, it's one more thing. It's a science, it's a technology, but it's also an art. So when I say art, yep, so botanical art has been practiced for centuries and is still a needed skill in some sectors of the industry, and it's quite a specialised skill. I'm a terrible artist, by the way, and it's used as a means of preserving knowledge or to pass on information. But it's also an art of knowing what tree or plant to put next to one another, what's going to complement what plant will make a scene look natural or even unnatural. Horticulture is an art that you'll develop as you progress with your skills and learn the foliage and flower colours and shapes and smells. And yeah, I guess it's an industry that can really activate the senses. This here is a utilisation of the skills of horticulture on a grand scale. It's Botanic Gardens in Melbourne, and if you haven't been there, please make some time to go there once we can kind of get out of our 5K bubble, because it's well worth having a bit of a wander around. But in these gardens, like look beyond them, and you'll see the city that's slowly turning greener. You're seeing more and more trees being put into our streets and urban areas all across Victoria. And this is due to the horticulturalists working within those cities, making real change in people's lives. And look, many people still don't notice or appreciate the gravity of their work, but they're slowly turning our cities into urban forests, which is much needed.
David?
Yeah.
When's the best time to visit the Botanic Gardens? Is it sort of how do they change, for example, with the seasons? I just had a question from in the chat there, around that.
When's the best time? Anytime is the best time.
Anytime.
Opening hours, maybe. How's that? You could jump the fence if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. We've got security guards. But yeah, I would say anytime, because, it's great to get an understanding of how plants change during the seasons, and there's always something new to look at, whether it's the buds forming at this time of year, in some, like right now we've got all the wattles coming out. It's, amazing. Botanic gardens are really lovely this time of year with all the wattles and all the various types of wattles that they've got coming out. There's a really beautiful ground cover wattle that should be flowering pretty soon. Any time of year. And it's a great place just to get some mental relief too. Hopefully that answers anytime. This here, this here is a picture of a green wall. And this is an example of how the City of Melbourne is really focusing on reducing temperatures and diverting stormwater, where they don't have a lot of room to put in trees into the grounds. They'll put plants on walls, plants on green roofs, indoor and outdoors. It's quite incredible, and there's a lot of investment in the City of Melbourne, and even some of the other inner city councils that are putting into green walls and green roofs where they don't have room any longer to make parks. And look, our warming climate is only going to see this this sector of the industry grow further. So, careers. Look, there's so many different careers that I can't talk about them all today. But what I've done, I've grouped them all into some particular sort of subgroups. And look, I'm going to rely on you reading fast, or maybe teachers, you can get in contact with myself or the industry, and we can supply with some more information that you can distribute. So, so it is an outdoor role. Not all horticulturists work outdoors, but it is an outdoor role. Nursery workers are the backbone of the horticultural industry, and where you can really begin to develop your skills. What's another job on there? Urban foresters, I think I mentioned them earlier. So we need horticulturalists. We need people with good understanding of plants working in our councils and government. And the people that are ordering plants, we call them specifiers. So they're the ones that specify where plants are going to go. We really need people with good horticultural skills that understand how plants grow and how they react to different environments, to ensure the right plants go in the right spots, because, you know, you can make a lot of expensive mistakes if you're ordering, you know, $80 trees, maybe 2,000 of them, and you're putting them into a street and they all die because you chose the wrong one. This is a nursery at the bottom as well. That looks like they're all cyclamens potentially. I envy nurseries, you know, that can be around that. Traditionally, a busy time of year is now, and despite the pandemic, the growers are absolutely run off their feet at the moment. And look, truth be told, the industry has been growing year on year, and it's funny, times like now, everybody seems to turn more and more to plants. It was determined that from about 2016 to 2020, they were expecting maybe a 5% increase in growth in the industry. It's been closer to 30%. It's really kind of just blown things out of the water. Sorry, it's only half my face on there. There you go. So the next group of careers is for, the scientists. This is where I started. So this is people who, you know, like their chemistry, like their physics, like their maths. I don't like my maths, but I had to do my maths. You'll do field work outside. You'll be collecting seed. And as you saw in the video at the start, you know, part of your job could be, you know, bringing species that are endangered back from the brink of extinction. I've got a friend of mine who works at the Botanic Gardens, and she gets to go out to the Grampians, you know, once a year collecting seed, just, you know, with a backpack on, hiking around the hills. I mean, I've got a great job, don't get me wrong, but I'm jealous of her. You'll also be able to... Yeah, sorry?
We did have a question about what I might have glanced over your qualifications. What's your area of expertise in your studies? What have you
it's a funny one. So look, my expertise is in biosecurity. So that's, I guess, the study of understanding how to manage pests and disease, prevent them coming into the country, how to manage them once they get here, from a global scale down to really granular at a nursery scale. So that's my expertise. So I spent a lot of my early years. I actually trained as a psychologist when I was younger. I didn't really like that. And I was working most of my time in bars and hotels in Fitzroy in Melbourne, and I realised there was no future in that. There is a future for some people, but not for me. And I decided, well, what am I going to do? What do I really love? And I really love plants. So I went to Monash and I did a degree in plant sciences, in botany. And then from there, I started working at Botanic Gardens in public programs, where I basically just spent my time, getting people interested in plants and talking about plants. And then I started work at Horticulture Victoria, so for the State Department. Essentially, I was a plant cop. I would, you know, tell people and businesses that they could move plants across state lines and things like that. There's a whole quite complicated structure about moving particular plants around the country and across the world. And then, there's an opportunity to work at the NGIV, Nursery and Garden Industry Victoria, and I grabbed that. So that's my background.
Thank you.
All right,
David. We just had another question about the sort of cycles of work and the patterns of how a working day and a working year looks. Yep. Joe asked, do you find with your job that you are travelling a lot and moving through a variety of different jobs rather than sticking with one job throughout the year?
Yeah, sure. So I reckon I'll let Will answer this in a couple of minutes, because I think he'll be able to tell you about his sort of career path. My role is fairly unique in the industry. There's not many of me. But I think Will probably give a better indication.
Sure.
So
okay, we'll car park that then.
all right, no worries. Yep, so I'll move through this quickly. So for the tech lovers, so there's people that like sort of tinkering with machinery and automating those jobs that make our lives easier in the nursery and make businesses more efficient. There I am again. It's, environmentalists. So I would hazard a guess that most people in the industry would fall into this category in one way or another. I would hope that people in the industry like plants. I'm pretty sure they do. Horticultural therapy is another sector that's developing, and that's meshing together nursing and caregiving roles with horticulture to aid in rehabilitation, healing, and palliative care, as I mentioned earlier. So the Royal Talbot and Austin Health, they're kind of leading the way there and providing horticultural therapy alongside traditional therapy streams. Really interesting field. Look, it's for the creatives as well. This comes back to horticulture being a bit of an art as well. You recognise Costa from ABC Gardening Australia. Look, we can't all be him, and one of him is enough. He's got a team of researchers behind him that work at the ABC, providing him with all the information that he needs. What other roles is there? Yeah, okay. So look, plants sometimes don't sell themselves, and they need people writing about plants. We need people designing labels. We need people developing plant brands, designing landscapes, talking about plants in print, internet, television. All right, next one. For the number crunchers. So nurseries, they work with some big numbers. Like we're talking millions of plants a year, which we'll talk to you a little about shortly. Some nurseries have over 100 staff members, and look, these all need scheduling and support to make them run efficiently and also cost effectively. Look, this is not for me, not for everybody, but there are some people who are great, have got great numerical skills, and they'll thrive in that space, and they can make a real difference as well. And look, finally, the final category would be the leaders. And the businesses I've mentioned today, like they all need managers in all the various departments, many layers in a nursery, and lots of room to move. And many businesses and I guess experienced horticulturalists to learn from. Look, and if you stick with it and you learn your skills and you keep on learning those skills because you'll never stop, you will be recognised and be much sought after in the industry. Good horticulturalists are, I'm not going to say they're hard to find, but they're very much needed. We're a large industry. We're a very well-connected family. Makes it sound like a cartel. It's not like that at all. And look, the good horticulturalists are treated very well. All right, final couple of slides. All right, there's a bigger picture at play that might drive you to want to work in horticulture. You'll play a part in adapting our landscapes and cities to climate change. You'll contribute to food security at a national level and food sovereignty at a local level. This is so important. You'll be protecting our flora and faunal habitats. You'll bring imagined landscapes to life through your knowledge of horticulture. And you'll push the boundaries of science and tech because I guess you'll be deciding of like how we produce plants, how we produce them better, and what sort of plants we choose to grow as we breed better plants. So working in horticulture, you'll enter a field that'll give you a flexible work life, a career working in nature, and there's not much better than that. You'll learn from the best, and you'll never stop learning. I can't stress that enough. You'll work with like-minded individuals, people that love what they do, and they'll tend to go to sleep pretty easily at night knowing they're contributing to a really positive industry, knowing they're doing something positive for environments and habitats, as I mentioned earlier. And nearly 400,000 different plants. There's a lot of avenues you can take, a lot of different plants that you can grow, a lot of different places to work and develop your skills. yeah, importantly, you'll develop a career for life. Look, even if you decide that horticulture isn't for you, but you've started learning it, you'll take those skills into your next role or career, and you'll have knowledge that will benefit you for life. There are a few things more fundamental than knowing how to grow your own food. All right, how do you get into it? So pathways. Yeah, look, before I started in the industry, I was oblivious to the depth, let alone how to actually get into it. If this has sort of given you some interest though, I mean, feel free to contact me at the NGIV office. We can provide you some more information. Otherwise, keep a lookout for advertisements. We have them online. We advertise quite regularly. I don't know what we'll say to this, but cold call a nursery and ask if they've got any jobs going. Whether it be, it could even be weekend work or even just over summer, if you're still in high school. Consider taking some VCAL, VEDS, VET horticultural subjects. Inquire about apprenticeships through TAFE, where there's many horticultural and nursery-led qualifications. And then, look, once you get through there and you've got a career in the industry, you can even look at going on to university and doing a master's. Actually, going back just with TAFE, currently horticulture is subsidised as one of the free TAFE courses, so really good opportunity that shouldn't be missed. All right, I think that is me. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'd like to introduce Will McIntosh from Mansfield Propagation Nursery. So Will is a horticulturalist, first and foremost, but he is, I guess, transitioned into the sales manager role there. Is Will, you around?
Yep. Here, mate.
Hey,
You? All right.
Sorry, you had to listen to all that. I'm sure you've heard all that before.
No, that was good. I like David Reid starring as Plant Pop. That's probably my favourite. Just picturing you showing your badge everywhere, stopping the people at the border.
It was similar to that.
David, are you still sharing your screen? Or is it?
I'm not showing my screen, so you can take me off there if you like.
Oh, no, that's all right. I think it's all good now. Yeah.
Excellent, great. So I guess, Will, I've brought you in along with me today, so you can maybe talk to everyone here about how you got into the industry, what you do at the nursery that you work at, what your nursery does, and I guess your experiences within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, guys, and thanks for getting in on this Zoom meeting. I think this is a really good thing that you're doing, Dave, and I've enjoyed the presentation so far. So I work for a company called Mansfield's Propagation Nursery. We are located in southeast Melbourne, just at the side of the Mornington Peninsula. We have about 60-ish acres that we operate off here at the moment, and we've got two businesses that run on the site and around 100 staff between the businesses. So we're growing every year and always looking to diversify the business. But yeah, really enjoying it so far. I've been here for 11 years now, and my pathway into this industry is not too dissimilar to things that Dave was doing in his previous life. Started off, working in a supermarket at stacking shelves, and then got a job as a busboy in a local bar, and worked there for a few years doing the night thing, and eventually ended up behind the bar and kind of working during nights and sleeping throughout the day. Which at that point in time I was, but always longed for a career somewhere, but wasn't quite sure where I'd go with it. Throughout school, I had no indication or ambitions to go into the horticulture industry, but ended up stumbling across it in my early 20s. So when I was about 20, I went and did a season at Mount Buller and worked in a restaurant and a bar up there, and really enjoyed that. Came back wanting to go over to Canada or Japan, and got a I needed to get a job in the interim between the seasons, and saw there was an ad in the paper for Mansfield's propagation nursery. I don't think I'd even ever been to Skye before. I was a little bit further down the peninsula at the time, and thought, oh yeah, why not give it a go? I soon realised that my mate Tom worked at Mansfield's as well, so I gave him a tap on the shoulder and said, look, I'm going to apply for a job there. I'm just looking for a casual position. And when I went in and had an interview, they ended up saying, look, we don't have a casual position, but do you want to do an apprenticeship? And from that point onwards, I've been here. So I said, you know what, I've got no other career path going at the moment, and saw an opportunity in horticulture. And when I looked around the site, it's quite an amazing site here, and very lucky to be working in a place like Mansfield's. But it inspired me, and I saw a career path and jumped on it. So signed up to take an apprenticeship in 2009, and did my 3 years of schooling throughout the first 3 years at Chisholm in Cranbourne, and then the 4th year of the apprenticeship is just fully working. So the first 3 years are 4 days on site, 1 day at school, and then the last year is just full work. Did a diploma in horticulture at night school in Holmesland and Waverley, and then just really kind of knuckled down and kept working hard at my craft. Along the way, when I say I didn't have any intentions of going into horticulture, maybe if I had things like this presentation right now, shown to me at an earlier stage, I might have been able to get into it a bit earlier than my early 20s. But that's my path, and I wouldn't change any of it. But I really did fall in love with the industry, as cliche as it sounds, knowing that, at Horticulture we produce over 4 million plants a year. That's just through Mansfield's. We do a bit over 2 million through Tissue Culture Australia, which is the other site, the other business that we have on site. So that's a tissue culture laboratory. Waking up in the morning and knowing that I'm contributing to Greening Australia, and we also send plants internationally as well via tissue culture, is a really good feeling and gets you out of bed. And I really love it. So throughout working at Mansfield's, after the apprenticeship was done, I worked in numerous, and throughout your apprenticeship you would work in multiple sections throughout a nursery. It's not just kind of, there's only one aspect to nursery. It's watering plants every day. There's propagation, there's tubing, there's plant maintenance, there's sorting, dispatch, mother stock management. If you wanted to get into micro horticulture, you can go into the tissue culture lab and cut, tiny plants with a scalpel every day. There's all these great aspects of it. So I spent my time working in plant maintenance, sorting, plant health, and then dispatch. And from dispatch, we do about 1,000 varieties a year. So when you're seeing that many plants, you start to get a bit of knowledge under your belt. And from that point, I said, all right, well, let's get you into the office and start selling some plants. So from that point, that was about 5 years ago. I went into the office 5 or 6 years ago, and opportunities arose, and now I'm managing sales here. Like I said, we do over 4 million plants a year, so it's there's a fair responsibility in ensuring that they all get to where they need to go, and I really enjoy it though. It's challenging. It's not just come to work and pick up a hose, that kind of thing. We're looking at data. We're looking at how to grow sales, how to grow, as Dave touched on earlier, you've got marketing, all that kind of thing, labelling, branding. So there's plant brands in the industry. It's really quite diverse, and there's not really an end to it. It's just one thing leads to another, and it's a really good thing. So.
Hey Will, we've just had
Sorry,
I'm Sam. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
we've just had a couple of questions. One about access to or entry to the industry. You've sort of mentioned that you were seeking casual work, and then that turned into an apprenticeship pretty quick. But Joe has asked, I guess you might be able to answer it generally with your understanding on the industry in terms of getting that first job. Joe has asked, did you feel the course you did allowed you the variety of employment opportunities, or did you feel it was the first of many courses you completed to try and find more opportunities in the career? So I guess to summarise that question, is it, if you do a qualification at, say, TAFE or in VCAL, do you feel like that gives you, puts you in a good position to apply for jobs and, sort of be successful across the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Thanks, Sam. And great question. Yeah, it definitely does, for sure. Like when someone comes in here and on their resume they say, I like gardening, that's fantastic. Good to hear that you like gardening. But if they came in here with a resume that said certificate 1 in horticulture or nursery, this type of nursery function, it's a huge inclination for us to hire someone that has done some sort of study. They've gone out on their own to go and enrol in that course. So they've shown a genuine interest in not only finding a job, but actually, getting some good learnings under their belt to leapfrog into the industry. I mean, from a personal level, like I said, the apprenticeship came first, so I didn't do anything prior to that. That's just one way of doing it. I definitely would recommend, especially with the incentives to do a horticultural TAFE course, being that you can get grants and subsidies to essentially do that for free in some way, shape or form. That's that's a huge selling point for me. So
and Will, I guess following on from that question from Hannah, we've got, do you need a qualification to work in horticulture? So if you didn't have a qualification, how might you go about it? Something similar what you did, maybe looking for seasonal work or casual work, and show a lot of interest, and how would you go about that?
Yeah, definitely. Just hand in a resume. In answer to the question, no, you don't have to have any qualifications. The general manager at the nursery, who's extremely knowledgeable and driven in his craft, he hasn't done any formal schooling, no apprenticeship, no nothing like that. It doesn't matter. It's all about the persistence. I think when it comes to a career, and if you're handing in resumes and you're not getting jobs, I mean, just stick at it. There will be, I guarantee you, there will be opportunities that come up if you stay front of mind and you are persistent and show that you're a driven person. And regardless of the age as well, if you're young, that's fantastic, because you're setting yourself up for a good long time in a great career. But even if you're more of a mature age student, we've had some people that have come in and worked here when they're in the mature age kind of sector, and they've still loved it as well, and they've been fantastic for the company also. So it's never a bad time to get into horticulture.
I've got a question. Excuse the pun, what's been, from thinking about your career as a whole, from start to where you are right now, what's been the rose and thorn? What's been something that's been quite very surprising and very good? And then what's been kind of something that's, challenged you in certain ways?
Okay. That's a good question. So far, I would say the industry as a whole, it is a really good industry, and there is a lot of really good people that work in it. So I definitely thrive on friendships as well and making them. And I have really, there's not many people that I enjoy in the industry. So that's been really good. Also, the teachers was a surprising thing. Like, I had a lot of good teachers at high school too, but some teachers that I had throughout the way in the horticulture, through my horticulture learnings, were really good. There were some really inspiring ones, and that was a refreshing thing to come into a classroom and have a few people that really inspired you and made you want to do better at what they were trying to teach you and how you take it back to the nursery. So they're probably a couple of the real positives, and also the travel. Probably didn't realise how much kind of travel opportunities you could have in this industry. I've seen majority of Australia need to visit the States pretty regularly. We have conferences and training courses that are held in different states, and they've been fantastic to go and get involved in, because you learn, and then you get to have a bit of a social events after, and a few frothies, so it's always enjoyable. And also through Chisholm, they had an opportunity to go and study greenhouse management in Holland, so I got a kick with that when I was a third-year apprentice, which is fantastic. It was partly government funded, and then we had to raise some of the money to get over there. But yeah, I got to study greenhouse management in Holland. We got to go to England and Amsterdam, which is a bit of fun on the side as well. So yeah, that's probably a few of the highlights of the career so far, and also being sales manager for one of the leading propagation nurseries in Australia. The thorns, I would say probably the hard work at the start. There was some points in time where it was. Oh yeah, early mornings, they're not bad. It's just when it heats up and you're in a greenhouse and it's high 30s with 80% humidity, it can get pretty sweaty in there. So some of the times that we had slugging it out in the grow house in summer to get the plants out the door were probably some of the harder times, but it makes you appreciate the the cooler days and all that. And it is also, look, you think it's bad at the time, but you go home and you feel like you've done a really honest day's work, and I think you're better for it as well.
And just before we wrap up, what's the most interesting thing or the most surprising thing you've learnt in the industry since you started, that first thing that comes to mind?
Most surprising thing?
Or interesting?
All right. I didn't know anything about tissue culture until we acquired that business about 6 years ago. So to find out that there was people that worked in a room and grew plants under lights and cut plants at a stage of growth where they're only the shoots on them are 1 to 2 millimeters long. That was fascinating thing to learn. I didn't know, and I guess another thing is also when I first got into it, I pretty much had no idea where plants came from, or was just oblivious to it. You see plants everywhere. You walk down the street, people's front garden. Some are beautiful, some are, and you kind of go. Now you go, well, I know where those plants come from, but back then you're kind of oblivious to it. So I think it's quite amazing when you look at how many plants are actually in the landscapes that we walk through every day. To know where they come is an interesting thing for me as well.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Yeah.
You stumped me with that one.
Thanks for popping in today, and also David.
Yeah, no worries.